Psychoanalysis, a Tales from New Bucharest short story. Part 1. My head was pounding with a strong feeling of dyslexia after taking 3 pills of nostalgia, bliss, and lust combined. My chemical works of art were trying to take over the fragile system of neurons that were being in a state of complete numbness. My eyes were turning from red to blue towards a really undistinguishable color that only existed in the feeble dreams of alchemists long dead. It was the first day of June 2044 and all I could think of was my new project called Blackout. It would be the perfect drug, the one that would liberate your mind from all your thoughts and make you go beyond your human limitation by automating your behavior and giving you a long-deserved rest from reality, from consciousness. It was pretty sunny in the residential tower where I also had my lab. They didn't want me to wander too far from where I felt comfortable. They wanted me to be in their control. The sons of bitches just didn't understand that drug designing was a form of art. It was the new way of artistic creation. It was a gift that after all those years working my ass off for events and other corporate bullshit, I would get the chance to actually be creative. I started to feel like shit and then jugged 6 more pills of drugs created by others just to see how messed up my day would become, and I was still able to turn my sensations into ideas for my new shiny baby. Psychoanalysis, a Tales from New Bucharest short story, Part 2. The portrait of my long-dead mother and not-so-long-dead father were hanging in my lab, pinned hard in the liquid concrete wall. This image was making me think of a famous dictator couple executed on the 25th of December and how their not-so-long-dead children were thinking when all their portraits were grabbed from the walls of schools, hospitals, and other public service buildings and smashed and then burned in the streets of an unconventional coup d'etat. And also how I was feeling about the fact that I was barely over 35 when I legally became an orphan. Blackout had a really weird way of delivering things that would better be locked away directly into your theater screen size video consciousness and then playing them over and over again, letting you drown in a sea of tears. But my new creation was not good enough for her. Her perfect appearance translated into a rare beauty left me cold. Staring into her hazel towards dark brown eyes made me think about racial purity and about how my son will look, but I remembered that all my mother's children were blue-eyed blondes and this was not the point with her. The architecture of her hair made me go back to long-dead jungles crushed under the bulldozers of the idiotic corporations empowered by the money-hungry corrupt governments of ages long past. This way I discovered all the side effects that Blackout had and decided to cut back on the useless nostalgia and go forth and exclude that from the neurochemical process. She was still insisting on us getting married and moving to some faraway piece of heaven country to live under an ancient government rule and renounce on the worldly pleasures the grand global corporatocracy has given us. I was still messed up by the abuse that my new work of art has thrown me into, and I was negating future plans for now and here where everything should have been perfect and nothing is worth doing if I could not finish my 13th drug. Psychoanalysis, a Tales from New Bucharest short story, Part 3. I was having recurring nightmares about my grotesque face turning from red to black and from black to pink, hair growing inside my brain, and how 9 children were singing songs meant for the ears of the dead inside my skull. It was about failing to deliver. Blackout was turning to be one of the greatest challenges I had to cope with in the last 10 years of designing drugs. One of the nightmares made me ask myself some really fucked up questions. Was I really up to this? Did my swollen face filled with regrets like flesh-eating worms meant to be a sign? I was not sure of anything anymore. Next morning I grabbed my coffee in a hurry with a straw. With my head wrapped tight with white bandages so my white grotesque could not escape and people could see the fear of failure printed with such an accurate precision like the work of a master forger of $1 million paintings. Paranoia was the only thing I could feel properly. Paranoia had a sense of purpose, a sense of reality. It wasn't just another side effect, it was the state in which work got me into. I was having the impression there were other people spying and working their way around to fuck up my child of neurochemical origins. I kicked out my assistant for being too helpful in the lab and grabbed a book with the face of a man that in my delusional state looked exactly like Joseph Stalin and talked with me. Thank God, this lasted only 3 days, one more and I would have thrown myself off the largest building in New Bucharest. and my mind was still far away from healing. The constant abuse was marching into my brain, through my cortex like an army ready to ransack and pillage Rome. Psychoanalysis, a Tales from New Bucharest short story, Part 4. I was only 3 seconds away from a lobotomy. It was not about the fact that I wasn't sleeping at all and working like the oxen from a famous painting of a long-forgotten Romanian master painter. It was just about the fucking truth regarding that all my moral support was gone. I was all alone in a really fucked up world that was still trying to correct past mistakes and was on the verge of creating a really useless utopia for generations to come. All my good friends, my circle of 5, my inner circle of trust was gone. All my friends were dead. All my friends are dead. All the people were just milking my talent to recreate some of the most fascinating sensations from some of the most deadly drugs that were ever black marketed on this planet in its entire history. But I was quite happy about it. To recreate the sweet touch of deadly poisons with absolutely no side effects was a God-given gift which I started to love. Yeah, I know, I am a motherfucking narcissistic bastard when it comes to my intellect, but I have all the rights in the world to do it and to be. It's not like I was taking pride in something that was created by the random and weird cocktail of genes. I worked my ass off to cultivate my intelligence and to use that for the benefit of the people around me. It took me years of practice to remember each chemical reaction, each neuronal path that could be turned into something beautiful, out of this world without doing any damage to the nerve cell. I was a genius. I am a genius in my own right, and that's why whenever I came up and launched a new drug I was venerated like a rock star, like a god of past white powders. And the really fucked up thing about it was the fact that my physical appearance was lame, was boring, was unattractive. I was the only man left in 2044 with no tattoos or other body modifications at all. My skin was pure white cursed with all sorts of minor or major pigmentation foreign elements that looked cancerous. But cancer was long dead, and also most of the fatal disease that haunted most of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century. Psychoanalysis, a Tales from New Bucharest short story, Part 5. I was in dire need to take a break, to take a breath of fresh air, to get out of the corporate citadel, to run far away, to see the mountains, to explore the sea, to find that little thing that most of us call quiet. I could have used tranquility, but that was still one of my most valued creations, and for me it was just a waste of chemical purity. I felt the concrete, metal, glass structures crushing around me, sinking with me in a dark and endless abyss of chronically terminal dementia. The unrest was awful. I had a pain inside the deepest corner of my darkest thoughts. It was growing, and it seemed to take the form of all the women of which feelings I crushed due to my workaholism. Do you remember that song Love, Love Will Tear Us Apart? When I was a bit younger I used to sing Work, Work Will Tear Us Apart. Being a total hardcore workaholic never helped me with my personal life. It just took bite with bite of all that was close to me and destroyed it and drowned it in a sea of ignorance in which my lines were designed to sound like this: I am too busy to go out with you, but don't worry, when I'm going to have time we will do a lot of things. The truth is that I never had the time. Maybe they loved me and I lost something irreplaceable, but back then work was all I had in mind, everything else seemed pointless and wasteful. And now I feel it. You know that sensation that grips you tight and makes you bleed out bitter tears when you realize that you've been alone all your life and there was nothing more that you could do to fix that? The thing is that I never understood why all of them of life felt in love with me during my 55 years of life. It was something that I was never consciously aware of. Falling to my knees and feeling how the velvet cushions of my floor saved me from bruises, I just realized that I must go to the new Mecca of my youth, to the place where all my summers turned out to be sweet dreams of unmeasurable pleasure. There, with the salty wind blowing into my hair and with the sea reflecting sunbeams into my eyes, I would find the inner strength to solve my issues, to slay my inner demons, and to find something which I thought I totally lost: my innocence. Psychoanalysis, a Tales from New Bucharest short story, Part 6. It was kind of, and it was too fast, the transformation that the place used to be known as Vamavesh went through, now named Nueva Frontera, turned out to be one of the most sophisticated seaside resorts. The entire old village and most its structures were razed to the ground, and now sand took over everything. It was the largest artificially built beach in Europe. Some of the oldest and most respected ventures were actually moved in the 2,500 meters tower that seemed to be floating above the water. The only one I remember was Elga's Punk Rock Hotel. They took both buildings, plus the garden plus the beautifully painted wall, and placed it on one of the upper levels of the spiral tower. Nueva Frontera was now at around 500 meters from the beach, carefully anchored. There was a wooden passageway with many ramifications that lead to the main elevator of the imposing structure. From what I remember, they did a time-lapse of the entire process. It took them only 1 year from day one to the end to remodel the entire resort. It was kind of weird to walk on that beach with nothing familiar left for me to linger on. All my memories were sunken in a place that no longer existed, and a river of nostalgia in which small bites of pain were swimming was ready to drown me. The sea was more beautiful than ever, was absolutely sublime. It sent me into a stream of vivid memories of times when I was innocent, of places in which I was building sand castles with no worries to cloud my mind. I have flashes when my living and in good health parents used to lose me on a crowded beach. I was hiding in the clothes of other children. The only thing that gave me away and made them found me was the fluffy chunk of bright blonde hair. I love and always loved to swim, to go as far away as possible. In water I was like a dolphin, enjoying almost endless plains of water. I used to wander as far from the shore as possible, then to be hurled back by the lifeguards. In my teenage and post-teenage years I used to pick up girls, take them under clear sky, gazing at the stars and enjoying them in the most non-human way possible. The thing was that the next day I wouldn't even remember their names. Yeah, I know I was an asshole during those years, a troubled, fucked up, cocky bastard. There in Vamavesh was also the place where I broke up with my first girlfriend. I don't know why, but I even remember the exact date. It was the 9th of August 2009. Right now I was readying myself to jump from 1,000 meters into the clear sea, to feel the short flight clearing my darkest thoughts and to purify myself from the past. I was getting ready to start something new, to guide my every action in a totally different way than the ones I used to. I was ready to embrace my full potential as a creator. The first night and last night spent in the crowded wooden rooms at Elga's Punk Rock Hotel made me understand the journey from child to teenager to adult. It was rough, I was bumpy, it was a true nightmare, but I got here and I was ready to move on. I was ready to start a new chapter, a new flame to shine stronger than all others combined. I was ready to embrace my choices and to prove that being your own puppet master is the way to go.